Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our Monday, August 21st school board meeting, and we'll start with our approvals, deletions, additions. Dr. Vareko.
Thank you, Mrs. Suze. You do have a revised agenda at your workstation, and the revisions are on page 3, Roman numeral 7, B, C, and D. And those corresponding changes are in the packets at your workstations.
Move to approve the revised agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Dr. Medlin, a second by Mrs. Kelly. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Is there any correspondence this evening, Mrs. Kelly?
There is not.
All right, we'll move into our liaison committee updates. Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. There's nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Kelly?
I also have nothing to report this evening.
Dr. Medlin?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Dr. Malco?
Correct. Lake Central Education Foundation, the 5K walk run is being held on September 9th. And again, that is in honor of our most recent graduate, Dana Les, but we're hoping others can identify heroes in their lives and come and represent those heroes in their lives. The Dyer Parks Department is having a big celebration on September 16th. I think I've shared it with you, and I had hoped to have a flyer tonight, but I don't. But years ago, we had a young student, Dave Nowalczyk, and he was killed in action. And for years, his mother has been very diligent about trying to receive a Gold Star Family plaque for the community. And not only did she receive a plaque, but she has now a monument. And it's going to be so cool because we will actually make that alive on September 16th. We will dedicate it. And she will be here, her husband will be here. There's also a gentleman that's coming, he's a World War II veteran, and I believe he's one of the last standing World War II veterans. So it would be nice if we all wore our Lake Central blues because David was a student at our high school, and support the family that way. And that is on September 16th. Time is yet to be determined. They're still making activity plans, but I will let you know as soon as I hear from Mr. Hine at the Dyer Town Council, or Dyer, what is he? Town Manager. That's it. I have nothing else.
And Dollars for Scholars, we're gearing up for homecoming. So that information will be coming out very soon. And that's all I have for my committee. So we'll move on to our official school board business topics consent agenda. Dr. Vareko.
Thank you again, Mrs. Suze, for our consent agenda. Seek board approval for the minutes from our executive session, special board meeting, work session, and regular board meeting on August 7th. Also from the board's executive session on August 14th. And finally, seek board approval for the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures that you received in your packets last week.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. And I will second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign?
I need to abstain from the August 14th meeting.
All right. We have one abstain by Dr. Malco. There are no public comments regarding action items, so we'll move into our official school board business topics, regular agenda. Dr. Vareko.
Thank you once again. We are fortunate this evening to have Mrs. Novak from the high school here to share with the board some special recognition that was recently received by one of our high school instructors.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm pleased tonight to recognize one of our teachers at Lake Central High School. As you are probably well aware, Lake Central High School offers a variety of dual credit courses through a partnership with different universities. We have Ivy Tech, we have Indiana, Purdue, and Vincennes. And this year I was notified that Ivy Tech had selected one of our instructors as the dual credit instructor of the year for her work with Ivy Tech Community College's Lake County campus. So she's here in the audience. It's Mrs. Dawn Combis, but before I bring her up, I do want to say a couple of things about Mrs. Combis because she definitely deserves this moment in the spotlight. She goes above and beyond for our school, for our community, for our students. She's always working to get kids ready for college, which is one of our primary goals here at Lake Central High School. So she's always open to attending any kind of professional development, and she seeks that out herself. It's not that we have to go to her and say, hey, can you go to this workshop? She's knocking on our doors saying, this is a great opportunity. I want to be here. I want to do this for our students. So she's very proactive, and there isn't anything that she wouldn't do for her students at Lake Central. So I am very honored to honor her tonight. So Mrs. Dawn Combus. Thank you.
I hope I don't have to say anything.
Speech.
Of course.
No, just we'll get Aaron.
It's all you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I should call you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I apologize for not standing, but
Oh, that's okay.
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Where's the mess?
Right there. That's fine, yeah, that's fine.
All right, ready?
My
One.
certificate.
There you go.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Oh, that was cute.
My second item this evening is to update the board that I did have my first conference call webinar with the group of superintendents that are working to enhance the education profession. We had 32 participants on our first call. It was last week, Tuesday, which is the first week of school for many people. So we believe we're going to have closer to 55 participants after that first session. But some of the comments that came out and some of the objectives of the meeting were for those of us who participated to share as briefly as we could, and with superintendents, that's not always easy to do. But what are some ideas that you think need to be addressed by the General Assembly, specifically in the upcoming short session, when there isn't a budget opening? So what are the kinds of things we can talk about that don't involve money? And then before you move on to another job or retire, what are your goals for the education profession? And the purpose of this was to try to, collect information and say, okay, what do we have that are more common themes among us? What are those things that we can work toward? And then for me, the key is, how are we going to get in front of members of the General Assembly to talk to them and try to help them understand that while compensation and the deal, as I like to call it, of being a teacher is important, it's also important that people feel like they're going into a profession that's respected and valued. And so there were a lot of comments in the opening question about eliminating or reducing some of the severe negative commentary towards educators. Some of the things where people will compare data sets to other countries that have much longer school years. Some of the people who said we need to mention what other people who are graduating from our state universities and others with a bachelor's degree are able to be rewarded in their job in terms of pay compared to what we're currently offering in especially rural Indiana school districts. Some short session ideas that I thought were interesting. I shared, as I've been sharing a lot, I'd like for them to create some kind of a study group to calculate the true cost to educate every student. So more complicated students cost more money. Let's talk about that. Some people suggested that some state leaders need to do a better job of publicly thanking educators for the good work that they do, given that things have got more complicated than they were 20 years ago. Some people suggested rolling the teacher appreciation grant into the funding formula. Some people suggested that we have to not generalize so much, knowing that some communities of poverty have trouble with tax collection rates. And so when there are guidelines set for how we spend tuition dollars, if people are needing to use more of that tuition dollars because they're not getting as much from their residents, to cover the NIPSCO bill, that needs to be considered and not acted like it doesn't exist. And then, of course, we also, a very common theme was to limit the number of education laws that get passed, especially in the non-budgetary years. Before you move on, retirement, some of the ideas that came out, the number one was make the profession respected again. Make the complexity index more than just a factor for poverty. So that's something I sort of mentioned earlier with all the complications of educating students who have challenges. Analyze and share the lack of federal support for special education. Make the next iteration of the statewide exam one that can be used for several years so the target does not keep shifting for educators. Take a long look at universal pre-K and formulate a plan to have participation from a wider group of constituents in these efforts to reach out to the General Assemblyman. There are some people who just about came out and said that some of our people in certain parts of the state don't make those efforts to tell their people that the laws they're passing aren't necessarily benefiting us as much as other ideas might. So anyway, it's a start, and I just wanted the board to know that we're off and running, and we're going to continue to have these conversations, and I'll update you because I do think it's important for us to try to refill the pipeline with potential teachers. We used to get numerous applicants for jobs. We still get some, fortunately. Some of my peers talk about posting a job on August 10th and not getting any certified applicants. So having to put somebody who's not totally regularly qualified for a job into a position at least to start the year, we need to get back away from that. So I just wanted that information to be out.
Dr. Rocco, have you, or did you discuss contacting the teachers' colleges once again to see what their enrollment is? Remember, it declined big time about 4 years ago. I don't know what's happening at the registration level at the colleges.
There's them putting out people who can be teachers, and then there's how many of those people actually pursue a position in the profession.
That's another variable.
So they're not there's been a big disconnect. My contacts at Purdue University, for instance, have told me that they have math majors who don't go into teaching. They get offers from the private sector to do their math work as in logistics and things like that. So that data could be helpful, but I will share this, and Michael Hicks is going to be the keynote on the first day of the School Board Association, and he's going to present some data on how much the number of students entering schools of education has dropped. So it is a factor. It's a significant factor.
I mean, I was thinking more the teacher colleges specifically. That's where we saw the huge decline. Tell me about Michael Hicks.
He's a Ball State professor.
Okay, well then.
Economist. He's an economist.
Okay.
And he's going to talk, his main topic for this School Board Association annual meeting is the impact of Indiana laws regarding education on education in Indiana. So where it goes, I don't know because I haven't heard it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Okay, my final item is just to get the board to approve the board policies that we've talked through at the last two work sessions. And the list is lengthy, but we've had conversations. Remember, for the benefit of the public, probably a third of these policies contained what we call technical corrections, where they may have just adjusted a few words and the intent of the policy did not change significantly. They seem to like the word shall a lot more than will, for instance. But anyway, seek board approval for those policies. And the last time, just in case the public's wondering, it took about 3 weeks for our vendor to get them updated when I confirmed it the day after the board meeting. Thank you.
Move to approve board policies 3A through 3AAA.
We have a motion by Dr. Medlin, second by Mr. Marshall. Any discussion, questions?
I'd like a minute to look through these and refresh my memory. This is the final read, right? Second read? We did
Fine.
the first read in the work session, correct?
That's when we discussed it.
Okay. Just let me look this through. Sorry I didn't get it done in advance. Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And we'll move on to our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I am seeking your approval for the personnel recommendations, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Motion to approve those changes?
We have a motion by Mrs. Kelly, and I will second that. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I do
Any
have a
opposed?
comment. It's really cool to see Olivia Longo be a parapro.
It is.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion,
sorry.
oh, that's all right. Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I am seeking your approval for a change to our security pay rate. We have started to struggle to find officers for some of our extracurricular and after-school activities. Speaking with Brian Kissinger, our Director of Security, he's looked into the matter, and a lot of our community organizations in the area, along with other school districts, have increased their rates. Our rate is currently $30 an hour, and it's been that way for quite some time. Most other groups are paying $40 to $45 to be competitive. So what we're proposing is that we bump that rate up to $40 an hour, so that way we can make sure that our students and families are safe at those after-school events.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malko,
Second.
second by Dr. Medlin. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And my last item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malko, and a second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
And now on to our Director of Primary Education, Dr. Bracy.
Good evening.
Before we move on the mentors, is this your part of your, the mentor? Is this part of your document?
Yes.
Okay, I had a couple of questions on that. So with the mentors, I noticed that some of our staff members are being rehired. I noticed that on the, not on this agenda, but on others in the past that said rehire. So will they work with a mentor once again?
So it depends on what their position was when they left. Like if they were already a certified staff member with some years of experience, we may not necessarily assign them a mentor because they may have chosen to leave for a little while due to family situations and come back and they don't necessarily need that. There's other times where if they'd possibly been in a different position and moved to another
Turn the
one in the
microphone
district
on.
that we would.
And so if somebody comes in new to our district but has past experience at another district, are they assigned a mentor?
They are because there's always differences between
Right.
school districts and we want to make sure there's.
Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, Larry, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you had the data presentation on this at the first teacher day? Did I see that on the agenda?
When you say data presentation,
Well,
what do you mean?
it was the outcomes. You had summarized,
The
like,
mentors, I think that she needs the mentor program. New teacher orientation you did.
you would summarize the results of your surveys that you'd given your mentors, mentees.
No, we explained to our incoming teachers what the role of the mentor was. Bob Gustus and I made a presentation. Bob was a member of that design team, and then we've adjusted our program over the last 7 or 8 years a couple times. And so we explained to the teachers what they should expect. And then tomorrow at 4, I'm meeting with the mentors to explain to them first what I explained to the new teachers, what they should expect. But also, you know, mainly, we have guidelines on how they support with gradebook things and all the little things. But if you were new to the district, what would you want your professional friend down the hall or next door to help you with? Those are the things we want you to provide to this person so that they can not stress the small stuff, so they can focus on instruction.
Right, and I know there's a survey you give, because when I cleaned some of my files, I found it. I should have brought it tonight, but I didn't. Do you still?
We
give
have
survey?
surveyed our mentors in the past and our proteges to see what they would like to see more of. We did not do that this last spring.
Okay, so you don't have the date on that to know the effectiveness. But you have done it in past years, am I correct?
Well, we're pretty confident anecdotally that the people appreciate it because we get a lot of folks who say it helped them. Otherwise, we would have done away with it
Well,
by now. So
It is a very, very valuable program, probably one of the most valuable ones that we do for teachers. I would love to hear some more about it at one of our future meetings, just, how you approach it, who questions, what the guidelines are.
when I give the documents to the mentors tomorrow, I'll send the board a copy of what I give them.
Oh, perfect.
It sort of outlines what the expectations are, although the best mentors go above and beyond what the list says they're to do. And in many cases, I tell the people, don't feel bad if somehow you just strike up a great relationship with somebody else who's not your mentor. Anybody who's willing to help you, help our students do better, that's a good thing. You can have more than one mentor. So, and sometimes those people who do that informal role, they're like, hey, I kind of enjoyed that. I'm going to sign up to do it the next year.
Yeah, this is just really what learning is so much about for educators. So yeah, the more that we can put an emphasis on it, I think the more successful we'll be. Do you agree with that, Erin? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's one of our, especially in a building our size, when new teachers come in and they have a friendly face to go to,
Yeah.
that makes a world of difference.
And you have seen over the years, and we all have, those of us in education, how somebody will spark somebody, and that spark will just travel right down the hall, and the next thing you know, you have a collaborative team together. And that's why it's so important. So thanks for keeping that alive. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now we'll move on back to Dr. Bracy, our
Thank
Director
you.
of Primary Education.
Good evening. I am seeking your approval for the professional leave request in your packets.
Motion to approve those requests?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second.
second by Dr. Medlin. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. I am also seeking approval for the field trip request provided in your packets.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
Second.
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And one last thing, I am seeking approval for the plan for staff evaluations. Each year, school districts are required to submit an evaluation plan to the state. There are two plans, one for certified and a second for administrators. The plans meet all requirements set forth by the state of Indiana, including performance evaluations, observations and feedback, professional development plans, and the required number of observations for 23-24. The plan for certified staff was shared with LCTA earlier this month, and it was signed by them today during discussion. With your approval and signatures from President Suze and Dr. Veraco, I will submit the plans to the state of Indiana's online portal this week, hopefully tomorrow. The due date for submission to the state is September 15th, but I don't want to wait until that date. Any questions?
I do. Tell me what the components are. Is it still the student growth model where they monitor? And how is that designed now? I know there's been some changes over the years.
So I can list every section for you. So it's the performance evaluations, rigorous measures of effectiveness, the evaluators, observations and feedback, designation and rating categories, the PD plans, the negative impact on student growth and achievement, instruction delivered by teachers rated ineffective, monitoring systems, cash awards, and then again the required number of observations, and also the important dates for our RISE evaluations.
Okay, and those all come from the state?
Those are all categories required by the state, yes.
There was this section called PGP, maybe you mentioned that, isn't that the student growth? Don't they have to analyze data and monitor student growth?
That is the negative impact on student growth and
Negative.
achievement section, yes.
And how is that done now? Is it just one student? Is it a group of students? Is
It's
it
based on iLearn scores, and they look at the entire class.
the entire class?
Mhm.
Oh,
In the
can't
group.
wait to see our iLearn scores. And our end of the year scores for
Yes,
iRead, yeah.
yes,
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Short
Do we have
comment.
to,
I'd like to pass along some kudos to Dr. Bracy for her role in coordinating the school board's evaluation of our superintendent in terms of collectively getting signatures and getting that passed on. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it.
It says we have to take action on this, so we have to take action?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Kelly.
Second.
Second by Dr. Malco. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schoeneman.
Thank you. For my first item, I'm seeking your approval for the professional leave request that you received in your revised board packet.
Move to approve the professional leave requests.
Have a motion by Dr. Medlin and a second by Mr. Marshall. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I'm seeking your approval for the field trip request that you received in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco, and I will second that. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my third item, I'd like to provide the board with an update on summer curriculum work. In July and at the beginning of August, I had the pleasure of meeting with 10 different curriculum committees, both in math and science. The result is that all of middle school science, high school biology, biology honors, and chemistry courses have been meticulously mapped out through Q1, and those maps reflect the new science standards. Not only do the science teachers have new standards they are implementing, but they're also using the new textbooks that they chose last year as part of their adoption cycle. The new textbooks, regardless of publisher, between the high school and the middle school, all take a phenomena-based approach, and were chosen in part for that reason. A phenomena-based approach just means that we're helping students shift from learning about to figuring out. The resources that the science teachers chose to help them facilitate the inquiry-based nature of our science curricula have helped in the mapping process. Likewise, middle school math teachers are working out of a newer textbook. This is their second year using their new resource. Like science, the math curriculum and the math instruction begins with the conceptual, moves to procedural, and then application. The middle school curriculum maps were designed prior to the 22-23 school year, and this summer, Scott King, secondary math coach, Sarah Castaneda, before we transitioned, and I met with the committees to edit the maps as needed. Now our focus is on honing in on the conceptual entry points for students. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to the committees who came in during their summer break to ensure that the foundation of our instruction, which is our curriculum maps, have been ready to go for 23-24. Our work continues through the year, but we're in a great spot thanks to the summer work. Thanks. Any questions?
Yeah, okay, now, I know it has a different term. I remember it as power standards, where you identify certain standards as having more power and weight than others.
Yep.
And Sarah, you told us about this. What's that called, that the State Department did?
So when the state revised the standards last spring, and then gave educators a chance to have feedback and then released the final version this summer, they have essential standards now.
Essential standards,
So
okay.
similar concept, they just changed the name as they like to do.
So we think it's something new and it's not, huh? Okay, nice work.
Thank you.
And will you be working on assessments that align with that? And
Yes, absolutely. So we have common summative assessments, and we actually just began some work on common formative assessments with sixth grade math specifically on Friday. So
Okay.
definitely moving in that direction.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Gramala.
Thank you. Included in your board packet was the annual authorization that I need in order to be able to sign off on our special education excess cost contracts. So if you remember, I've talked about these before. These are agreements we enter into with the state for students whose needs are so significant that we don't feel we can serve them here at Lake Central School Corporation. So our case conference committee would make the recommendation for a placement outside of the district. We would then write the IEP to reflect that, and then we can seek assistance from the Department of Ed in order to pay for that. Our district is responsible for around $26,000 of that placement, but then the Department of Ed picks up the rest. Because we are, as the district, entering into a contract with the Department of Ed, it's a pretty lengthy contract procedure. They used to require board sign-off, which was pretty difficult. Rob and I continue to struggle with the pieces that we have to do. But this authorization, if approved by the board, allows me to sign off and just removes one step from the process. So I would seek your approval for that tonight.
Motion to approve that.
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second.
second by Dr. Medlin. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on to our Director of Facilities, Mr. Ledyard.
Good evening. Thank you, Mrs. Suze. I just have the annual update of the projects that we've been going on throughout the summer. The Bibbage project, we did take all the steel delivery before school started. We have all the steel erected in the 10 classroom addition, as well as the 4 classroom addition and the cafeteria. All the slabs have been poured. We are detailing the steel now. We should have the 10 classroom addition detailed by 8 weeks in, and we'll start some masonry and some carpentry on the parapet roof of that building next week. We were able to get all the site utility work done in the parking lot, in the playground before school started, and we are probably 95% done with all the site utilities. We'll finish those up this week. So that was good. We got all the pavement patched, as well as the pavement replaced there where we had to go through in the playground area for the site utilities before school as well. And we have a clear defined separation of project area and school and parent pickup and drop off that I believe Allison and her staff are very happy with. And so that went very well there as well. And so far with the week gone through with school, we've had no issues with arrival and dismissal so far. Moving on to Grimmer, as I stated at the last board meeting, it was a race to kind of the finish line. We did start up all the units on August 10th. They have been running since August 10th. We are shutting them down at night. We were able to get all the controls done, at least the wire pulled in the school with the exception of the gym. We are working on controls right now in back of house, in the boiler room, in the mezzanine, so that's going on, as well as insulation of the ductwork and pipe, again, only in the back of house, boiler rooms and mezzanine. I'm hoping by Labor Day, as I've told the Grimmer administration staff, we should have most of that wrapped up. So far so good, everything's gone there. We did get the final inspections from the town the week of August 7th, and we got the fire alarm passed, and the fire inspector passed there as well the first day of school as well. So that, all those inspections behind us, and we're just wrapping up controls and insulation there. We do have, as I said before, at several board meetings, we are missing one air handler unit, and it's supposed to still be here end of October or November. As I said before, fortunately, that's like for a boiler room and a little bit of the receiving kitchen area, so it's not affecting any of the learning classroom areas as well. Baseball, softball lights, if you've driven around, you saw we did get the bases in since we last spoke at the board meeting, so all the 13 pole bases are in. We are finishing up the underground electric to those bases this week. We're hoping we'll wrap that up this week. If not, it will be the beginning of next week. Our poles did get moved up. They're coming the week of September 18th. So we will have delivery of them sometime the week of the 18th, and we'll get that coordinated and scheduled, get set. We'll have to have a minor outage to terminate my high voltage wires to the transformer. We're planning on doing that over fall break when school's out. And then again, as I've said numerous times, then we have to wait for my guts for my panels for both the softball and baseball lights are supposed to be here beginning of January. So we'll have no issue with getting them ready for the next season. Freshman Center HVAC, as I said, right now we were able to do some demolition in the mezzanines and boiler rooms. We do have all our roof curbs set, so we're hoping that some of our equipment will get here before spring break, that we can set the equipment over spring break. And again, it's going to be a really busy summer for that, mostly next summer. But we have done some things behind the scenes and on the roof with that. That's all I have.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Bill, I had an inquiry made of me, and I know you've mentioned it, but I had forgotten the Bibbage project. How
Yep.
many classrooms are we
It's 14 total new classrooms, but it's a delta of 12 because we're taking two. They're going to be basically a common bathroom, two existing classrooms, so it's a delta of 12.
Thank you.
And similarly, I've had people ask me, why so many classrooms added on at Bibbage? How was that number determined? And I said, I don't know, I'm not privy to that, I never heard. How was it determined?
Well, Coaling, as you know, has been packed for a
Right.
few years. In fact, we took a chunk of their library and turned
Right,
it
I
into a
remember, yeah.
classroom.
Mhm.
We have a significant portion of Coaling students that come from an area of Dyer where they can look at the water tower next to Bibbage from their yard. And so it's through no fault of any of my predecessors when even 15 years ago, 40 to 45% of our territory was Coaling's district. And so since Bibbage was a school of low 400 students, it made sense to add classrooms there and to bring them up to the 600 level where Coaling and Protzman had been in the past. Of course, Protzman's a larger school now, so it is also above 650, but that's why, to have balanced schools and to manage the growth.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Ledger.
Thank you.
And Dr. Varacco is going to present our Director of Business Services, Mr. James, portion of the packet tonight.
Thank you. His first item is to seek board approval for the donation given that you received in your packet last week.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second.
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the second item is the easy part of the budget, which is just presenting the proposed timeline. Our next meeting, which is on Tuesday instead of Monday due to Labor Day, is where the heavy duty work begins. And Mr. James will start presenting information regarding long-term planning for bus replacement and capital projects and so forth and so on. But at the September 5th meeting, there is an opportunity for the public to speak. Mr. James will be seeking permission to advertise the budget through the means that are called for by the State Board of Accounts. And then on Thursday, September 7th, there'll be a publication of notice above the public hearing, which takes place on Monday, September 18th. And that meeting ironically falls at least 10 days before the budget gets adopted. Of course, we've historically just gone in back-to-back meetings, so it'd be a full 14, in some cases 15 days. But so our adoption of the budget of all that stuff will take place on Monday, October 2nd. And not that it's part of his budget timeline, but it helps us to have an idea of where the revenue's coming. And our ADM final count would be the same date, October 2nd. And that's around the time that we hope to be, updating the board also on what we're able to give our staff in terms of increases, both teachers and classified staff members. That's the budget proposed timeline.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our public comments portion of the meeting, and we have one person that signed up, Mike Kovacevic.
Thank you. My name is Mike Mile Kovacevic. I'm an Orthodox Christian, and I was just perusing one day on the library's catalog just on high school. And I love that you guys honor students that passed away by doing memorial 5K runs and other stuff. But as well as the school board is committed to the students' public safety, I think in the name of where most of the school district lies in is in the town of St. John, named after the person that baptized Jesus Christ. I just happened to look through your online library and found there's only one book that pops up when you type in Jesus Christ, and it calls him a charismatic cult leader. That should alarm any Christian, whether you're on the board, in the community, a taxpayer, but there's 3 books on Satan, including opposing viewpoints, 68 books on witchcraft, 12 on transgenderism, 15 on the Bible, but only 3 actually reference and talk about the Bible, 69 regarding curses, 1 including a graphic novel, 80 books on gay, 26 on homosexuality, 5 on LGBTQ, 137 when you type in Christianity, but some of them mock Christianity, 96 when you type in God, but some of them only reference multiple gods, like in Roman times and Greek times. So as a now a parent of someone that's in your school district, I'm highly concerned. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of this issue, but I think, you know, this town that the school district is located in isn't named after Satan. It's not named after a demon Moloch. It's not named after Sodom and Gomorrah. So I think there should be at least a higher standard, at least in our libraries, especially with regarding our students, because you don't see smut offered in our libraries. So at least maybe consider offering more biblical references or books regarding Christianity instead of one that labels Jesus Christ as a charismatic cult leader. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Sir, what library was that? Where did you?
That was under Lake Central High School.
High school. Okay.
Yep. I think that's the title actually of the book, Charismatic Cult Leader.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Mr. Marshall. Thank you. Mrs. Kelly.
No comment this evening.
Dr. Medlin.
I'd like to thank the administrative leadership that decided that it was time to pilot a program to get cell phones out of the hands of our students during instruction. That was a big, bold move, and I believe it was definitely timely and well executed. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jenny, what did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Okay, I said that now I have to repeat this. The administrators implemented a policy that takes phones out of the hands of students during class periods, and then I think that was a bold and timely move, and well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Malco.
Oh, I agree that that's a move that takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength. And I heard on the news that several school districts are doing that across America. It's about time. And then I went to a workshop the other day for just laborers, you know, people that just work and not are necessarily in the educational force. But one thing that they don't do, they can't talk to each other because they always have their phones in their hands. And so that area of our future is working on communicating with each other versus having the phones in the hands. So it is a problem in our country and throughout our culture, and something we need to grasp and try to do what we can with it. But well, we had a really nice band practice the other night. Their trumpets are sounding really good. And the volleyball team, it was a close one, but they did finally beat Andrean. But it was a lot of fun to watch. So if you have time, come out to some of the activities. Soccer's going on tonight. And Bill, I just can't wait to see those lights at the softball, baseball field this upcoming spring. Are you going to have a dedication?
I don't know about that.
Oh, I think you should. Oh, you got to do something, yeah.
And I just, I'm looking forward to, I know the high school's open house is this Wednesday, so looking forward to that, and hopefully attending a few of the middle school and elementary. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Veracco for board calendar of future activities.
Thank you once again. I want to remind everybody that our next meeting is on Tuesday, September 5th, due to the Labor Day holiday. We are currently scheduled to be in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. We are adjourned.